to 6 p.m. drivers.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Matt Skraby wraps up a full day of live and local sports talk.
And that is the whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show, October 23rd, 2024. I'm Matt Skraby, and you can watch the show if you would like. We are on YouTube, we are on Twitch, we are on X. On YouTube, you just search 97.3 The Fan in the YouTube website, and you will find the live show there. Also on X, you can find us at Matt Skraby, MATTSKRAB as in boy, Y. Real quick, I'm going to jump into the chat. Katie says, can you say happy birthday to my husband, Jason? He is 50 today. Happy birthday, Jason. I know Jason. I know Katie. They went to the first Scrabinator night. And so very happy birthday. Very nice people. So those are the type of people I like to meet out there. The very nice people. But Jason and Katie, happy to have you here. And happy birthday to Jason. Also, happy birthday. I don't know if this person's still listening, but Antonio, who won Chris vs. the Fans, it was his birthday today as well. So I think he turned 26. So almost half of what Jason is. But anyway, happy birthday to Jason and Antonio. Let's just get into see who's in the chat real quick before we get into the show. We got a couple things to talk about. It's kind of going to be a little bit maybe all over the place, but I will focus, I promise. Katrina is here. Gonzo is here. Rod is here. Castro is here. And McKee is here. Maddie B is here. Jacob is here. Thomas is here. And I'm probably, Katie, of course, is here. I'm probably going to miss some. Eric is there. Dominic is there as well. So thank you to everybody for joining. Again, you can go to YouTube, search 97.3 The Fan in YouTube, and you'll be able to find out the, you will be able to find the live broadcast. You'll also be able to get into the chat. You'll be able to chat with all of the other Scrabinators and Padre baseball fans that you could ever desire. Hello, Brandon. He is also in the chat. All right, so I wanted to start with Fernando Valenzuela. And the reason I wanted to start with Fernando Valenzuela, easy for me to say, is because when I woke up this morning and I saw the news and everything, it didn't really impact me much because I was not around. I was really little when Fernando Mania was happening. I grew up in the Bay Area, so I didn't know much about the Dodgers at the time. And when I woke up and saw this news, I knew his name because I know that we've talked about him on the show for, a couple times throughout the years, but I just didn't really understand the impact. And as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that I think it's my responsibility to check out some of these players from the past. When players pass away, it happens all the time where you see it scroll past your phone and you're just like, whatever, okay. And you move on with your day. But I think what really struck me with this one was because Fernando Valenzuela was 63 years old when he passed away. And that is right around the age of my parents. That is right around the age, sorry, Chris, but Chris, it's right around the age of people that I really care about in my life, excluding Chris. No, I'm just kidding. But that is what got me the most, is that 63 years old is way too young for anyone to pass away, and it's really unfortunate. We don't know the reason or anything like that. It doesn't really matter what the reason is, but 63 years old is so young, and especially these days when, medical care is so good and people are living a long time, it just feels like it's such an early end for someone who had a lot of good things happening and did a lot of good things. And so that's, it's very strange to see that he passed away at 63, because you just don't expect people to die anymore that early. I guess when I was younger, maybe I thought that's how long you get in life, but nowadays people are living for a long time. And Fernando Valenzuela was an athlete. Now, I don't know everything about him, but I'm assuming he took care of himself. And it just seems like something else, out of his control was to blame here, and it's very sad. Even though he's a Dodger, everybody, he became a Padre too. So we can't be hating on him because he was a Dodger. He was a Padre at the end of his career, and so basically what I was thinking this morning is, like, how much do we really want to talk about this? And as I went through the day and then started talking to Chris and Tony when they got here, I just realized that maybe I need to take a second and slow down for just a second and maybe think, hey, should I read into this person? Should I learn about this person? Rather than deciding whether or not to just talk about his passing, I think there are certain times where I need to go back in the history books and I need to look, because there's a lot of story from before I started watching baseball. There's a lot of story from, even when I started watching baseball. But I need to look into these things more, because Fernando Valenzuela was a big deal, and he really did, as you heard Dylan Hernandez say, as you heard Chris and Tony say, he really did great things for people, brought people together, and just overall seemed like a really great guy. So I am sad today that he passed away at the age of 63, but I guess I'm happy that I got to learn a little bit more today about Fernando Valenzuela. I need to stop being the guy who's like, oh, well, it happened in the past, who cares? I need to stop being that guy. I need to start realizing that sometimes people are, just because they're not the top of the world anymore, just because they're not a household name anymore, I do think that sometimes there needs to be some sort of respect shown by kind of finding out their story. Excuse me. That was crazy. Okay, now we talked about Fernando Valenzuela, and we're gonna move into what Bronny and his dad LeBron did last night. And the Lakers obviously played the Minnesota Timberwolves. They won, and Bronny made his debut, and he got in the game, and so he was on the floor with LeBron and Bronny. Now, I was skeptical I was very skeptical as to whether or not I thought this was going to be cool, or if it was going to seem like some sort of participation trophy, because I don't think, and I know that there are a lot of people out there, I'm not an NBA scout, but I think that it was going. I felt like Bronny. I'm trying to say things without being a jerk, but I guess I should just go with what is on my mind. But I thought Bronny being drafted and being put on the Lakers and being put on the opening night roster was for one thing and one thing only, and it wasn't to sell tickets or anything. They were still going to sell tickets. It was to make history and to make LeBron happy. And I changed my mind when I actually saw it. Because when I actually saw Bronny making his debut, I thought it was actually a really cool moment that I really didn't expect to feel that when I saw his moment. And he got out there with his dad. He took a couple shots, and he only played 3 minutes in the game. Then he went back on the bench. And it seems like it really meant a lot to them. It meant a lot to Bronny, and it meant a lot to LeBron James. And that is all well and good, but I can't, there's part of me that says it was a participation trophy type thing, because I want to see what they do with the roster going forward. Are they just going to put him into the G League now that he's made his debut? Because honestly, I don't think it's that, I don't know that I would really want to put a kid who maybe isn't ready for the NBA to put him out there with real NBA players, like NBA superstars. And I don't know that he looked overmatched. I don't know that he got enough time to really prove anything, but it does seem kind of weird in the way that they forced this to happen a little bit by putting him on the roster and putting him in the game. And I'm not going to take it away from them because they really genuinely looked like they were having a great time, and they really genuinely looked like this is something that they really wanted to do. So I think it's cool because, I mean, I said this last night, when's the next time we're going to see a legend like LeBron James have their son on their team and play in the same game together? I don't know that we're going to see that very often. It's not something that's common to have a superstar like LeBron play over 20 years and still be at the top of his game when his son is old enough to be drafted and put on the team. And so that is why I think my overall feelings of Bronny got a participation trophy are kind of outweighed by the feelings of maybe we don't ever see this again, or maybe we only see this one more time in our lives. So in that regard, I do think it's historic, and I do think it's something that we should recognize, because when something happens for the first time, and the league has been around for as long as the NBA has been around, and I think that it's of note. It's not something that we can just make fun of and throw away. I think down the road, I think we'll say, oh, it was pretty cool that Bronny got to play with his dad LeBron in a game on the same team on the floor together. I think we'll say that. Now, we have no idea what's going to happen with the rest of the season. We really don't know anything like about his development. Is he going to stay on the main roster? We'll have to see about that. And maybe he becomes, a serviceable NBA player, and he can really actually play NBA basketball with his dad. Now, that would be pretty cool. But if this is all we get, if the 3 minutes that Bronny was on the floor is all we get, I think that's still a pretty big accomplishment, and still something that I can't just sneeze at. Achoo. I can't just sneeze at it. Let's see. Eric says, I just got home and I wanted to keep listening to Skraby. Thank you. I guess it's time to put him on the big screen in the living room. Ooh. My face is too big for a big screen in the living room. Brandon said the Griffies felt special. An older Griffey could still play. Bronny feels forced on us. It's not really for us, Brandon. I get what you're saying, but it's not really for us. It's actually for them. And the NBA is going to soak up all of the press that they can get for this, because I saw it all over the news this morning. I saw on the Today Show, they opened up the entire Today Show with that story. And so it was a big deal. Gonzo says, hopefully he's got that 85-inch TV in the living room. I do not want to see my face on an 85-inch TV. Trust me, I do not. I'm trying to see if there's any comments on Fernando Valenzuela or about Bronny that I can actually use on the air, but I don't see anything right now that I can bring that is newsworthy. But we are going to head to break here on the Skraby Show. I still got a ton to talk about. I want to talk about Brian Cashman, the general manager of the Yankees, what he said to Mad Dog Russo about the Astros and about 2017. I want to talk about that. I also want, at the end of the show, to talk about Shohei Ohtani's 50 home run, 50 stolen baseball. It went to auction, and it had a record-shattering price that it went for. So we'll talk about that. I personally don't understand why anyone would pay the money that they paid for this baseball, but hey, someone wanted it and someone paid for it. But when we get back, I want to talk about the catcher position heading into 2025 for the Padres. I think I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start going position by position as we get into the offseason. And then we could do this as we go along on the Skraby Show. The winter meetings will be in the middle of December, so we'll have stuff to talk about there. But the catcher position is very interesting to me because I have no real idea of where they want to go with this. I mean, there are options, of course, re-signing Kyle Higashioka. You got Luis Campusano. You got Brett Sullivan. There's so many different ways you can go with this, but I do think it's one of the more intriguing positions because we don't really know which direction the Padres want to go. So I want to kick some of that around when we get back around the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan.
What's up, everybody?
here in the Skraby Show. I'm Matt Skraby. Thank you for listening. You can watch on YouTube. Join the community if you would like. Just go to YouTube, search 97.3 The Fan. You'll find it there. Also on X, at Matt Skraby, MattsKraby, as in boy, Y. I have to, before we get into the Padres catching situation in 2025, I have to tell you that my phone's news section. So I have a Google Pixel 8 Pro for all you people out there that hate the Androids. But I do love that it's all with Google. And there's a screen where it just has all of my news. It just keeps going and going and going. And then once I click one, a new one shows up. So this is like sometimes where I go if I'm stressed and I can't find a subject or a topic or anything. But there is one topic that is just taking over my news feed here. And the topic is Love is Blind. I don't know if anybody knows what Love is Blind is. I'm sure a lot of people know what Love is Blind is, but it's a Netflix like dating show. You're not allowed to see each other before you actually propose or whatever. So you have to get married, which is kind of crazy to me. It seems really kind of not irresponsible, but it just seems like they're forcing these people to get married. But these people also say that they want to do all these things. So anyway, you're not allowed to see what they look like or talk about what they look like before you see them. But now that the final episode has come out, I am just flooded with news stories of Love is Blind. It's just all about some of the things that happened after the show. I still haven't watched the final episode, so I don't know. The final episode usually is like one of those things where you go and they have to like either get married or they don't get married, and it's kind of like awkward because a couple seasons ago there was a girl who made the dude that she was with go to the altar with her, and then she just ripped him apart on the altar about how bad of a person he was, which I felt like it was very mean because she didn't need to do that in front of all of his friends and family. But anyway, so my news stories are just out of control with Love is Blind, and I really need to start getting that out of my algorithm because there's just way too many of them. Like Us Weekly now is one of the top websites that suggests stories to me now because of all the things I've clicked of Love is Blind. Chris says, I know Love is Blind because my wife knows Padres baseball because of me. I like it. Agonzo says, seems like a television program. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Katie said, yes, irresponsible is the correct word. I can't necessarily say irresponsible because some of these relationships work out. They do. There's a couple of them that have worked out. Katie also says that they watch Deadliest Catch, so they guess they can't talk. I mean, I used to watch Deadliest Catch. Deadliest Catch, though, is like 20 seasons in. I have no idea how they're making that show new anymore. But Love is Blind news just flooding my algorithm, my news feed on my phone, and I need it to stop. I should stop Googling things. I just get so interested about what happens to these people after. It's the only dating show I watch. I don't watch like The Bachelor. I don't watch any of that stuff. Love Island, nothing. Just Love is Blind for some reason. It's very interesting. Jacob says, Skraby, I'll be honest, I'd rather hear about the Lakers. M. McKee says, does Skraby want to be on the show? Is that what I'm hearing? Absolutely not. I have trouble enough communicating in a relationship where I can see the person. So how am I going to have a good relationship if I can't see the person and get married after like 3 weeks of knowing them? That is the definition of a bad idea for me. I've been down, not the marriage road, but there have been a few times where I'm like, oh, I think I can marry this girl. And then I realize that 2 months later, you shouldn't have thought you were going to marry this girl. All right, Padres. That's what you're all here for. You're not here for Love is Blind talk. The Padres catching position in 2025 is up in the air. And it kind of has been up in the air for the last few seasons. And A.J. Preller and company have done a really, really good job of figuring out where to go with their catching position each year. And I will say that there has been some luck involved. You get Gary Sanchez in 2 years ago. immediately starts hitting home runs and does amazing things for the Padres 2 years ago. You had Kyle Higashioka last year come out of nowhere. He started very slow, but then all of a sudden he's hitting home runs left and right, and he's hitting home runs in the playoffs, and he's hitting. He's someone that you didn't feel terrible about when they were up to bat, but he is an unrestricted free agent. And Kyle Higashioka is coming off of a career year. Last year, he had 17 home runs, 45 RBIs. He still hit 220, but, he's a catcher. Catchers aren't expected to hit these high numbers. 17 home runs is a career high. The previous 3 years, he hit 10. RBIs, career high. Walks, second most in his career. He had his first triple of his career this year. He had his second most doubles in his career this year. He had his most runs scored this year, and he also had his most plate appearances and at-bats this year. And the funny part is, when you look at the amount of games that he started, you would think maybe he didn't play a lot of games for the Yankees. No, he played almost the same amount of games with the Yankees as he did with the Padres. He played in 84 games. He started 77 of them. But in 2023, he played 91 games and started in 72 of them, played 83 and started in 72 in 2022. So these numbers couldn't be more different. These numbers are you can judge these numbers against each other because they're almost identical in the sample size. And Kyle Higashioka has put himself in a new market. Now, Spotrac, Spotrac, yes, it's pronounced that. Some guy told me that one time who worked for them. But he is if you look at what they're projecting him for this year, they're saying that he should make $1.6 million, which they should update their projections because last year, Kyle Higashioka made $2.180 million. So he's going to make more this coming season. It's really how much does he want to make? Because you got to think, if Higashioka is 34 years old right now, he'll be 35 at some point throughout the season next year. How much money do you want to invest in a 34, 35-year-old catcher who is coming off of a career year? We've talked about the career year thing with Jurickson Profar, and the career year is a scary one, especially a career year in a free agency year. And Profar's a free agent. He had a pretty good 3/4 of his season and then kind of fell off there at the end. Higashioka had a pretty mediocre first part of his season. Then the rest of the 3/4 of the season, he was very good for the Padres. But how much do you want to invest in that? And I'm sure that Kyle Higashioka doesn't want to accept just a one-year deal. I'm sure he wants to have some sort of job security. It seems like he likes San Diego, but I would think that he would want a multi-year deal, and I would think that he would want more money than the $2 million that he made this year because obviously he played better this year. But the contract year thing is tough for me because usually when you have contract years, it seems, and I should go back and do more research on this, but it definitely seems like once someone has a contract year and it comes out of nowhere, kind of like a Kyle Higashioka big year, I'm not comfortable with investing big money in that person for the next couple seasons because how do we know that this just wasn't the best year of their career? Every player normally has that 1 year where they have a career year, they hit a bunch of home runs, or they do things that they haven't done throughout their entire career, and then they go into free agency, they get a bunch of money, and then they're not very good. The first one that comes to mind right now is Anthony Rendon. He was with the Nationals. He won a World Series with them. He was a big part of that. He was one of the best players in Major League Baseball. Signs this massive contract with the Angels, and he really has not done anything to live up to that contract. Now, I don't think Kyle Higashioka is going to get the same type of contract that Anthony Rendon did, but it's still going to be something that is more than what he got paid last year, and it's up to the Padres whether or not they want to bring him back for maybe double what he made last year, maybe a little bit more than double what he made last year. But Kyle Higashioka is just one. You got to think about, when you think about the catching position next year with the people under contract, you have Luis Campusano, who is the one guy who last year started games. We all know what happened at the end of the year. He got sent down to AAA to work on things. He missed the playoffs. But you have Luis Campusano, and then you also have Brett Sullivan that has played some big league games for the Padres. He didn't play many last year, but he has played some big league games for the Padres. And who is your starter there? Are the Padres going to be looking for two catchers, a starter and a backup? Or are they just going to be looking for a backup because they're going to have Luis Campusano as their starter? Or are they going to have Luis Campusano as a backup and they still need to bring in a starter? So again, we are assuming that we can only use the players that are under contract. And with Campy, I still believe he has talent. I listen to this podcast on ESPN and they say all the time, follow the money. If a team gives a player big money, they're going to want to use that player a lot, and they're going to want to. That means that they're comfortable making an investment in them, and they're comfortable with, I guess, hope, or they're hoping that that player is going to pay off on the investment. Campy, I just don't know. I think that he has talent. It just needs to be unlocked. I don't think you can go into 2025 with Luis Campusano as your starting catcher. Just don't think it's a good position for the Padres to be in. I don't think there is really any comfortability with thinking he's going to be a completely different player from what we've seen over the last few years. And we've seen at times he could be a pretty good hitter. And we've also seen at times he could play good defense behind the plate. But I will say I disclaimer everything just when I'm using Campy, because I think that when they pay him over $1 million, that tells me that they're not going to let him waste away in AAA. That tells me that they're going to have him on the roster and they're going to try to see what he could do this year. I don't know where they're going to go with this, and I don't think that they're going to find some big name catcher that they're going to give a lot of money to, because we still don't know what the budget situation is like for the Padres. But the two separate conversations that you need to have, whether or not you need to find two catchers this offseason, a starting catcher or a backup catcher, is very important conversations, because you have to be able to figure out where they're going to go with this. And 91 games last season for Campusano. He hit .227 with 8 homers and 40 RBIs. His OPS was pretty low at .642, but I would take that for my catcher. Those stats right there. .227, maybe a little bit more home runs and RBIs and a little bit higher OPS. But for the most part, I would take that for my catcher if and only if the defense is good. If they're providing one side of the game and they're doing it really well, if they're playing really well, or if they're, sometimes I get little, I go too far in my mind and I need to slow down. If they are playing good defense but not hitting, I can deal with that. If they're hitting but they're not playing good defense, that's a little bit harder to take, because there's more runs that are scored when a catcher doesn't play defense very well. But I really think the plan is this, and it's not something that I think is a secret, but Ethan Salas is tearing up the Arizona Fall League right now for the Padres. He's 18. He's going to be 19 soon. And Ethan Salas, if the Padres can just get through, I was talking to Adam earlier today. I said, when do you think that Ethan Salas is going to be ready to debut? It's not going to be 2025. We're both in agreement for that. Based on what I've heard from Tony and other people and Chris, and it could be anywhere in 2026 or the beginning of 2027. So basically, with your catcher position, you just have to wait out until Ethan Salas is ready. You have to wait out until he can come up and be a starting everyday catcher for the Padres, and you just have to make do with what you can until that happens. Now, hopefully it happens sooner rather than later. I don't think it's going to be in 2025, but if you can just, it's kind of like, I'm just bringing up the 49ers, because it's kind of like the 49ers with Christian McCaffrey. They put him on IR and they've kept him out of all these games, and you're just trying to get through until he gets back. I think the Padres need to have a solution for 2025, But I do think in 2026, it's going to be much easier for them because they will have a better idea of when Ethan Salas is going to make his debut with the Padres and when he is ready to be an everyday major league catcher. So with him tearing up the fall league right now, you got to feel good about that if you're AJ Preller and company. And you can go into next season maybe with your catcher position not being the greatest position on the field. And maybe you just pay Kyle Higashioka $5 million or $10 million for 2 years so that he could be the starting catcher next year. And then the following year, maybe he's the backup for Ethan Salas or he's the mentor for Ethan Salas. You just need to get to that point. And then the catching situation is something that we're going to talk about a lot less because from all indications, Ethan Salas is seemingly going to be a guy who contributes for this Padres team for a very long time. I mean, the hype around him seems to be real. He seems to be level-headed. It seems like the Padres are willing to take as much time as possible to develop him. And with that, I think that when he gets to the major league level, I do think he's going to be ready and there will be no, hey, we need to send him back down to AAA to get things squared away. I don't think that's going to happen. So to sum up everything, just hold on until you can get to Ethan Salas on your team. And if you could do that, you're going to be in good shape because Ethan Salas seems like a guy who's going to be around for a long time. So if you could do that, AJ, if you can hang on for a little bit, if you can keep doing your magic at the catcher position and find some random catcher out there and have him hit 17 home runs for a career high this year, I think you could do it because you've done it a couple times now. But if you do that and then you get to 2026 and 2027, things are going to be much easier for you. So Ethan Salas is on the way one day, but I think that's the solution for the Padres is they're just going to have to do what they have in-house right now, maybe sign someone, but really just wait for Ethan Salas to make his debut. All right, this is the Skraby Show. I am Matt Skraby. I went a little too late after I was getting on everybody's case all day about being late. But when we get back, we have a couple things to talk about. I want to talk about that 50-50 ball from Shohei. I want to talk about Brian Cashman and his thoughts on the Astros and also the Daily Gripe. So stick with me. One more segment here on the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan. Thanks everybody for joining me tonight. Just got done talking about the catching position. Ethan Salas is the answer, in my opinion, when he's ready. 2026, 2027. Just get there first, and you will be okay, I believe. We'll have to see, though. AJ Preller has had such good luck with catchers. I think he can pull off one more season of trying to find a catcher that's going to come through for them. Brian Cashman, the GM of the Yankees, he was on with Mad Dog Russo, and he was talking about the drought. Actually, Mad Dog's going to set it up. So here is Mad Dog Russo talking to Brian Cashman.
Give me your thoughts here of finally getting back and winning a pennant after a 15-year. I don't want to say drought. That's not fair, but you understand what I'm saying with the gap. How about winning the pennant? How does that mean to you? Let me hear.
It means a lot, and I hate the 15-year thing because it completely forgets and discounts that some other organization cheated us when we were all the way in the end. You know, if you knew what was going on, I don't think they would be advancing at that during that time thing. I think we would have been advancing. So. I hate that 15-year thing because I don't think it accurately reflects history.
Give me your thoughts.
Well, there you go. He basically just said the Astros cheated, and so it doesn't reflect history. And should Brian Cashman feel this way? Should this be his opinion? I think it should be. For him. I don't know about going out and calling out the 2017 Astros is really the right move going into your World Series, but Brian Cashman's trying to defend himself, saying it's not a drought. We should have won in 2017, but we didn't because blah, 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 the Astros cheated. Seems like, that was 7 years ago, and Brian Cashman still is upset about it. And I don't necessarily think he's wrong for being upset about it, but I also don't think that Brian Cashman should be broadcasting that he's still upset about it. It seems like, and yes, the Astros did cheat. It was proven, and they got off pretty easy too. And so I think that probably irks him as well, that the people that were at fault for you losing a series and not winning the World Series, didn't really get punished. That would kind of bother me. If someone like I don't know. If someone like ran into my car, hit my car while it was parked or something. Never mind. This is a dumb comparison, but it just seems a little hollow to me to be saying this right before you go back to the World Series with your team. Brian Cashman has been the GM forever for the Yankees, and so he probably thinks, hey, I'm maybe possibly coming down on my last few years here if I don't get something done. And I guess fans do kind of forget because they didn't win the World Series, but that is kind of funny when fans are screaming, when was the last time we won because of you? He probably wants to scream 2017, but he can't. It seems like a little bit of a sore loser thing. I think at some point you have to get over it and move on. But Rod says, not for the public, Skraby. Cashman is drama. Yeah, he is drama. He's just causing drama. He's just causing things. Like, one of the things I think about when I'm deciding whether or not to allow someone into my clubhouse is, are they going to cause outside problems for me? Are they going to create questions for everybody to answer? And this is exactly what Brian Cashman just did. Now, media, when they're doing their media stuff here soon, even I think it might be tomorrow or today at some point, they're going to be asked about this. At least the Yankees that were there in 2017. So Aaron Judge is going to be asked about this. And it just seems like it causes a little bit of a weird distraction before heading into a World Series matchup with the Dodgers. I don't know. Hey, as a GM, your job is to not create news. Your job is to create a team that wins. And Brian Cashman is creating news right now for saying that he feels like he hates that he hasn't won because the Astros cheated in 2017 and no one really knows about it or even cares about it at all, which I don't. I don't really. It doesn't bother me at all that they got eliminated. I know Yankees fans probably hate it, but it doesn't bother me at all. I can go on my merry way and not think about the Astros one more time in my life, and I'll be fine. Now, Shohei Ohtani's 50-50 ball, meaning the home run that got him to 50 home runs and 50 steals, it was sold. The bidding began actually on September 27th. It was $500,000 was the start. And by the way, this is the thing where the person who got the ball said it was stolen from them, and so they're doing a lawsuit, but the person who actually ended up with the ball didn't want to give the ball back to Shohei Ohtani, and so they wanted to sell it for auction, and this is why, because you get a ton of money off of it. But the bidding began at $500,000, and then it didn't really have much happen with it for the next, I don't know, couple days. And so there was a total of 40 bids for the ball. The price was $2.1 million for the final two days, until two bids came in the final 3 minutes of bidding. One bid for $2.2 million, one bid for $2.3 million. And then because it happened so close to the end of the auction, it triggered a window in which 13 more bids came in, which pushed the price to $3.2 million. Now bidders were trying to see if they were the highest bid. And so they kept checking, and more bids came in. And each bid reset the clock 30 minutes. So the person who was in the lead they had to sweat it out for the next 30 minutes. Ended up selling for $3.6 million with a 22% buyer's premium added. So someone bought this ball for $4.392 million. This one baseball. The most, previous to this, the record for the most expensive baseball ever sold at auction was the Mark McGwire 70th home run ball. And it did include a buyer's premium in this as well, but that was $3.005 million. Now, I understand why the person who got the ball is keeping it for themselves, and they're not giving it back to Ohtani, and they're going to sell it because obviously they're going to make a ton of money off of this. But I don't know who wants this ball. Like, who wants to pay $4.392 million? I know it's a piece of history. I know that it's going to be worth more one day, but really, like, it's to me, collectibles, It might be upsetting some people out there. But to me, collectibles are not, I'll just say they're not for me. Because I know people love collectibles. I know people love to collect autographs, comic books, baseball cards, things like that. But a $4.392 million baseball, what is it going to do? I mean, maybe the people who bought it are a museum or something. Maybe it's just a rich person that's a Dodgers fan. What are they going to do? Just put this ball in their living room above the fireplace and be like, oh, yeah, that was the ball Shohei Ohtani hit for his 50th home run, and it gave him 50-50, the first player in his career. Cool, huh? Yeah, I paid $4.392 million for it. Isn't that cool? No, it's not cool. I don't understand why people buy this stuff. I really don't. I don't understand why people have to spend millions of dollars on a baseball. It's kind of crazy to me. But hey, someone paid for it. Someone's also going to get very rich off of it. So I guess when you are, I mean, then there's the whole side thing, the whole side lawsuit, because the actual person who said that they got the ball, it was stolen from them, and they have video proof of it. Maybe the person who sold this ball is going to need all that money for like legal fees and all of that. But it really just seems like a big old waste of money to me. It really does. And I'm sorry if anybody out there is like, hey, this ball is history. Don't disparage the ball. Well, I just did. I disparaged the ball. That's what happens sometimes. And I'm sorry about it for like 5 seconds, and then I'm not so sorry about it anymore. All right. Time for this part of the day.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
Katrina asked me what a buyer's premium is, which is a really, really good question. It's actually more, I guess it's more complicated, but really what it is just an additional charge on top of winning the bid and getting the ball. So basically it's like, hey, you won the ball for $3.6 million, but you're going to have to pay us 22% on top of that. So, hey, you owe me $4.392 million. A random ham says, you disparaged the ball, so you spoke bad about Ohtani. Maybe I did. Maybe I did. All right, the daily gripe for today is one, I'm really trying to branch out in my life and try to find new places for the daily gripe. But the daily gripe for tonight is something about the grocery store. Because there's like 3 places I go. AA meetings, grocery store, work. And I drive a lot. That's basically what I do. And when I'm in the grocery store, it really, really bothers me when people are over the limit of items for the line that they're in. Especially the self-checkout. Self-checkout is not for the people with a cart full of 50 items. Self-checkout is something that's supposed to be quicker. And I even believe they have something posted saying that you can't do that. But I was in the grocery store yesterday, and I saw a dispute between the employee and a customer. And the employee was trying to tell the customer that the self-checkout was not for them because they had A, alcohol, which you can't take through the self-checkout, and B, they had a ton of items. And this person was so angry. Here's actually a daily gripe within a daily gripe. Like, it really bothers me when people can't just accept that maybe they didn't follow the rules. That is more of the daily gripe than the people over the limit. Because this person was arguing about how they could do what they want because, it doesn't really say anything. And I missed that sign when they pointed out the sign. I missed it. So I can't really, I'm already here too. That's what bothers me. People who talk back to people because they're trying to get them to follow the rules and people don't believe that they have to follow the rules. I am a rule follower. I am also annoying at times. I know that. But I really do believe that this world would be a better place if people just follow the rules. All right. With that, I will bid you adieu. I'll be back on Friday tomorrow. I will be on the show with Gwen and Chris, but no Skraby Show until Friday. Thank you to everybody who's listened this week. Ben and Woods are back tomorrow, 6 a.m. to start the day on 97.3 The Fan. Good night, everybody. Hey.